me introduce you to my sketchbooks. This is Urban Sketching Montreal 2022. This is my pink sketchbook. Yellow Fever, most cliche name ever. And this is my newest one. Doesn't have a name yet. Actually, none of them have a name. I actually tricked you. Haha.
April Fools.
Is it too late to do that? Anyway. Hi, I'm an illustration student here in Montreal, and today I'm gonna bring you on a tour of my pocket sketchbooks. Let's get into it. Sketchbook videos tend to do really well on here. I guess a lot of people are kind of curious to venture into the artist's mind. I feel like a sketchbook is a really good representation of an artist's current art journey. So I can see the fascination when it comes to the subject. And I kind of want to take you through my sketchbook journey over the past year or so. For about a year now, I've been carrying around these tiny little pocket sketchbooks so I can quickly pull them out of my bag and draw from observation. Just kind of do a quick scribble of what I see in front of me. I feel like it's helped me improve a lot when it comes to drawing from memory, especially when it comes to anatomy and sometimes also perspective, although I feel like that's forever gonna require way more work and attention. I always thought of perspective like so hard and so boring at the same time. It's always the things that intimidate you the most that you should be working on. I've been struggling this semester, let me tell you. It's really worth it to just tackle those things sooner or later. I mean, the sooner you do it, the better, obviously, but if you get to it later, as long as you get to it, that's cool too. So yeah. For those of you always asking what pen I use to draw in my sketchbooks, it's this thing over here. This is the Tombow brush pen. It has a string attached because in one of my classes, we used it to kind of like get more accurate proportions down, and ever since I just kind of decided to leave it on. I figured I was gonna keep doing that, but I still just kind of use the finger method, so doing this instead. The string, I gotta say, is way more accurate, but I draw from observation and most times it's kind of on the go and on the metro, and I only have like a couple of minutes to get the lines down, so I don't really have the time. But maybe this summer, if I go around doing more urban sketching like I'm about to show you in one of my sketchbooks, maybe the string's gonna come in handy. The reason I like to carry these kind of sketchbooks around is because I can easily fit them in my purse. Whereas something like this, you get the gist. However, if you're a tote bag girly, you have no problem. Any size sketchbook. It's up to your lifestyle and the scale you're comfortable working at. At the end of the day, it's just personal preference. I didn't start working in this size until I realized that this size didn't really suit my lifestyle. I couldn't really like pull this out quickly whenever I wanted to sketch someone in front of me that I thought was interesting, and when I did, it was super obvious and I felt a little awkward about it, although really nobody really cared. Like, even when people see you drawing them, oftentimes they won't say anything. They won't really like approach you to even see the drawing. I don't know, it's just maybe they feel a little awkward, but then hey, that makes two of us. If ever you catch me drawing you on the metro or something, I will happily show you the drawing. It might not be my best drawing. At least you can see how I captured your essence, if that makes sense. I'll be happy to show you. I think I only ever showed a handful of people, if you can even call it a handful, my drawings of them on the metro. And one of them was because this girl was sitting in front of me and I was drawing her boyfriend who was sleeping, and she kept giving me the stink eye. So I was like, she was like, oh my god, can I take a picture of it? Blah, blah, blah. I'm not making love eyes at your boyfriend or anything. I'm just practicing my drawing fundamentals. I feel like sometimes people are flattered if you even draw like a stick figure at them. For Valentine's Day, for example, I told my boyfriend, who is not an artist, he's like a VFX artist, but he's not like, he doesn't draw. I was like, what if we handmade our own Valentine's Day cards? It would mean way more to me if you just kind of like scribbled something real quick, drew us as even stick figures. So we did that and it was like the cutest thing. I actually glued it in one of my pocket sketchbooks. This is another thing I do. I'll take things that I find cute or memorable, like a movie ticket or a Polaroid picture, or even, I don't know, food wrappers. If the food was really good, you bet I'm gonna glue it in here. It's memorable. Anyway, here it is. Freaking adorable, am I right? He played on the joke of, would you still love me if I was a worm? I was definitely flattered to have a stick figure version of me by him in my little sketchbook. Even though now I carry around all these tiny little pocket sketchbooks with me to do my observational sketches, I actually started drawing in one of these, but I felt low-key pressured to have more nice rendered pieces rather than scribbles. And even though I also did studies in this sketchbook, actually I did a lot of studies, I still kind of tried to make it look nice. Make it look kind of like aesthetic to some extent, whereas with the tiny sketchbooks, I don't have that problem per se. Like, I don't really have the pressure of turning them into something nice. I know they're just there for me to practice, and I can draw whatever I want in them. I can make as many mistakes as I want, and I actually encourage myself to just put down the quickest lines I can and just move on. So, for example, you look at this page and you're like, wow, but I see the notes that I gave myself on this page. What? What? I don't know. I try to kind of do a specific angle for the knuckles when I draw hands, and I just kind of, how do you say that? Emphasize that angle. So I just did it over and over until I was like, okay, this is what I want the knuckle to look like when I draw it. So, you know, it's scribbles, but they're notes that I took for myself. They help. They help me. I don't really focus on composition with these sketchbooks. I just focus on getting the drawing done and learning from it. Whereas here, I still have things that I glued in and repetition, but I try to kind of make it look like an intentional pattern. I didn't just draw it over and over like I did here. It doesn't really matter how I draw it. It just matters that I'm drawing it over and over. I can draw a hand on top of the other hand if I'm not happy with it. Like, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't bother me that it looks like scribbles, because this is for scribbling. This was the first sketchbook that I started drawing from observation in, seriously doing it as an activity. This is where I started actively learning. This is where I decided, okay, don't just draw pretty things. Observe your mistakes. Learn from your mistakes and do better. So this is where I started exploring. So I would draw people on public transit. I would do hand studies. But you see what I mean? I still try to make them look pretty, decent to look at. Experimenting with different mediums, colors. This sketchbook in particular, I filled over the course of the summer. Oftentimes, I would just go to a random neighborhood in Montreal, and I would just kind of pick usually like a building or an environment that was appealing to me, and I would practice my perspective. And then things around that neighborhood, whatever I ate there, whatever I saw that was like interesting to me. And I feel like that helped improve my observational drawing skills. And like I said, my main focus was perspective. So I feel like drawing all the tiny little windows, I got a better understanding of scale. And in drawing like, you know, the corners of the buildings, I got a better understanding of like what direction to push things into perspective. I don't know. I just feel like it helped improve my art a lot in all aspects. I didn't just draw buildings. I mean, for the most part, yeah. But I also try to draw like people that I saw and like a scenery, objects, because I feel like I don't draw enough objects and I really should. Yeah, there's a lot of like people drawings, people at the parks, cars, boats, and a whole 3 pages of umbrellas. Yet I still have a hard time drawing an umbrella from observation. This one, can't really like put it down flat because it has this little like bulk. And then this one is more so like flowy. I have a lot of things stuck in here I feel like I always do this to the first few pages. The first couple of pages when you start a new sketchbook are the most intimidating ones. You don't want to like ruin it. You want it to be kind of like a wow, a great introduction to your sketchbook. And so I oftentimes will just leave them blank and then I'll just take art from somewhere else and stick it in there. And that takes off so much pressure. So I recommend doing that if you don't know what to do with your first page. I don't know, I was just drawing a lot of things from observation. A lot of buildings, people, character. Wow, there's like a pretty good amount of variety in here. Figure drawing. I drew a bunch of houses that I saw when we went on a walk. At times I try to kind of introduce a little bit of color, but oftentimes I'll just like forget or it just won't cross my mind, honestly. I really like this one. I feel like it fits in with the pink sketchbook vibe. I should do that more often. Also collect things from my walks and put them in here. So this must have been beginning of fall because there's a lot of leaves in here. This is where I started doing this thing where I would draw while walking. So draw like the people in front of me while walking. I just try to capture it in real time. I'm still not successful at it, but I'll get it someday. I don't know. I'm just like determined to do it. I don't know why. It also doesn't help to not look where you're going. I tripped so many times doing that. So be careful out there. It's one of those like, don't try this at home, kids. But if you're gonna attempt it, just watch where you're going. Can't tell you what to do, especially when I do it too. This is one of the fun exercises that I always get my friends to do. So basically we'll sit in front of each other and we'll try to draw each other without looking at the page, and it's super funny. Neither of you can really look down at the page to see what's going on. It's a funny surprise when you're just doing it and then you both take a look at it and it looks like this. Fun little activity to do with your friends. I'm the weird artist kid in the group, so I'm like, guys, let's do this fun thing. And it's probably way more fun for me than it is for them, but it brings us closer together, or at least that's what I tell myself. Having a tiny little sketchbook also helps me take away the pressure of having to spend a long time on details, because since I have such a limited amount of space and since I'm working in pen, if you add too many details, the drawing will just start to look overly messy. So you keep it simple and clean and efficient. I only try to add details when it feels like it will improve the drawing in some way. So for example, here I added this like flannel touch because I just figured that it would make the doodle slightly more interesting. But as you can see in the other ones, I just quickly got the shapes down and, you know, the main idea, the main essence down. In the sketchbook, I don't have that many buildings because I think I completed it. Yeah, winter 2022/2023. I didn't go out much because it's fucking freezing. I never want to be out when it's fucking freezing, okay? I'll usually start bringing these outdoors end of April, beginning of May, because honestly, that's the only time I can like tolerate being outside and not having my hand freeze the fuck off when I draw. I also went to see Bones and All, and I fell in love with it. I'm a sucker for romantic movies, okay? And so I was low-key obsessed with it for a while. I had to draw about it. So there's that. More studies. People, props around them. I think I attempted to add more color into this book, but it never ended up happening. Whenever I brought markers, either I would forget or I just not get myself to incorporate them the way I envisioned it. I don't know. I have to work on that. Oh, and comics, of course. Sometimes if I have the time and the patience, I'll just kind of try to ink the comic, because I can't say fully rendered because I don't really take the time to perfect it, as you can tell. I already made like a teeny tiny video explaining what I wanted to do with this sketchbook. Did I end up doing it? I mean, I feel like towards the end, I kind of attempted to stylize my drawings a little bit more, but yeah, I feel like it still kind of acted as a more observational sketchbook and not so much pushing my character design skills as much as I wanted to. I mean, it definitely started here. This is where I kind of started having that idea of focusing on stylizing the people I see more than just accurately depicting them, which is still important, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of figure studies in here for that exact reason, because it's always important to keep practicing the anatomy as it is before you attempt to stylize it. That's often why you'll see a lot of studies and repetition. Like, for example, this page, I only focused on drawing the legs and the feet. This is what I say now, because you know when you go figure drawing, you'll start by the head. And if you don't, I'd be super interested to hear about it. But more often than not, people will start drawing from the head to the toes. And for this session, I wanted to start drawing from the toes to the head. I focused way too much on getting the feet and the legs to look as accurately as I could, which is a good thing, because normally when I start the other way around, I'll neglect those parts. So I really tried my best to figure out how that section worked and then move my way up. But then unfortunately, while I was moving my way up, the pose would switch. So I would only get up until the hips, and so I decided to call it leg studies instead of just admitting that I didn't have time to finish the whole figure. Okay, so we reached my current sketchbook. This is the one that I'm carrying with me at the moment. I started like a month ago and I only have 3 to 4 pages done. I did a car study. Look at the first attempt. Cars are not my thing, but someone said that if you're gonna do storyboarding, you have to draw a lot of cars. So now I'm like,
gotta draw a lot of cars, you know.
I did a street. I did a building, more shoes. If you see a page with a lot of shoes, that oftentimes means that the person I'm attempting to draw won't break eye contact with me on the metro, which means I have to look down so that I can break it myself. And because I don't want to stop drawing, I'll just draw their shoes instead of their face. So yeah, more observational drawings. And then, like I said, I'll either glue in some prints or stickers or things from other artists. Like this one here, this is a print from an artist I met at a art pop event in Montreal. There's a lot of those happening lately, so you should definitely check those out. Cafe and public transit sketches of people that I've seen. I also drew these characters from observation at the cafe. I was more intentional about drawing them how I perceive them rather than how they actually are. Push their features and try to stylize them more, you know? I feel like I'm getting there. Repetition is key, and boy, were they right, because look at how many times I have to draw someone to kind of get not only their essence, but get them to look the way that I envision it. Push their features to match the essence that I initially tried to portray. That's a mouthful. I hope it makes sense. Maybe if I just show you what I mean. For example, this character, you can tell that I've been trying to draw him a lot of times. A lot. And I try to focus on giving him sharp features such as the nose and the jaw, even like in the hair. I try to make him an elegant villain, but I also want to have him have a soft touch. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to play around with that and draw him way more times until I'm happy with the drawing matching his personality the way I envision it. It's fun. I'm learning a lot. It's my new thing. Sometimes I'll like directly attempt to stylize them, like with this dude over here. And that's like a challenge in itself, but it's super cool because you can imagine their cartoon self as you're witnessing them in real life and just go for it. Fun practice. And here is where my pen started to run out. So you gotta get a new one. That wraps up my pocket sketchbook series up until this point. Hope you enjoyed it. As you can tell, they're not the most clean or pretty sketchbooks out there, but like I said, they serve a purpose, which is drawing from observation, which in turn helps you improve your drawing fundamentals. So these are the sketchbooks you don't have to beautify, you don't have to worry about, you don't have to put pressure on yourself with. These are literally the ones that you don't even have to show anyone. I'm showing you because I want you to know that this is an option. You can do this on like loose papers too. You can do this digitally. It's just like a art dumpster. art dump. It's like where you let out all your shitty scribbles. So these are like the sketchbooks that help you improve your other sketchbooks. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.